Say What They Can't Radio.
Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to another broadcast of Radio1WorldFestGlobal. My name is Kamel Ellis. I am the CEO and co-founder of OneWorldFestGlobal, and we love to bring you this show on the last Sunday of every month from the hours of 1 to 2 p.m. right here live from the beautiful studios in downtown Brooklyn of We Say What They Can Studios. We have a great show for you today, so thank you for all tuning in as you do every week here. And We Say What They Can't live streaming. Check us out again live streaming on wesaywhattheycan't.com. If you're not following me on Facebook right now and you want to know what's going on, hit us up. We Say What They Can't Studios, wesaywhattheycan't.com, streaming live. So I don't get distracted by my Facebook. What we're going to do is introduce our great guest that we have with us. We're starting off. We have a couple of great guests. We're going to start off nice and early with Miss Clarissa James. She's the executive director and co-founder of a great organization called Divas for Social Justice. And we want to say good morning to Miss James and welcome her to the studio.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me here.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for being here. I met Miss James a little over 2 years ago at a community event in Queens, New York.
Yep.
In Laurelton, Queens, New York, that was put together by Miss Melva Miller, who was at the time the Deputy Borough President of Queens. Great lady.
She's
Great
a boss.
lady. Right. And Councilwoman Alicia Hyman, I believe, is also behind,
Yes.
Involved with that event. And some great people doing some great work out in the community of Queens where I'm from, and I'm really happy and proud to be a part of anything that they've done. And then I get to meet great people like Miss James from our organization. So, Miss James, tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization. Give us a little bit about your life.
All right. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for creating this platform and allowing me to talk about my organization. Divas for Social Justice is actually, Divas is an acronym for Digital Interactive Visual Arts and Sciences for Social Justice. And we've been around for a little bit over 11 years. And we started right here in Bedford-Stuyvesant. So when I got the opportunity to come here, I'm like, oh, wow. We started our program at the Magnolia Tree Earth Center across the street from Von King Park. And the mission of the organization is to encourage youth to use technology for social change.
Wow.
Yeah, for it, especially in communities of color.
Okay.
So some of the projects that we've worked on have been around environmental justice, looking at food deserts in Bedford-Stuyvesant. We created an interactive map. The young ladies in our program created an app called My Sister's Keeper, that they provided loving affirmations, and they had, that you can download. The kids had worked on an extensive project that got national press around the issue of gentrification.
Wow, okay. We did a town hall on gentrification. In 2016, a great town hall.
So definitely being able to do this work in Southeast Queens and Central Brooklyn has really been a blessing. And recently we acquired a storefront on Fulton Street that we are working with NYU to convert into a social justice makerspace, that will be available to the community for them to, get exposed more to STEAM-based activities.
Wow, that's great, and that's obviously something that's very important and needed out here today with the emphasis on STEM education, right?
Yes,
Science, technology, engineering, and math, and you guys even have arts involved with that, so you make it an even more well-rounded program. And I want to remind our listeners that the topic and title of today's broadcast is social responsibility. And the reason why we decided to do that is because right now we're living in a very interesting time in this country, a time that a lot of people who've been around for a very long time and have studied things for a very long time, history that is, see some very unprecedented things going on in our time. So we wanted to do a show on social responsibility to ask folks, what is your social responsibility? Do you have any? Does your social responsibility stop once you meet your front door, meaning that if you've raised your family and done your best to raise your family as best as you could, is that the height of your social responsibility? Some people say yes, as long as I send good people out into the world, then I've done my job. And some people say I want to do a little bit more than what goes on right inside my home, and they take responsibility to try to impact society and make positive changes. So this is why we decided to tackle that issue and look at that in today's broadcast and bring on some great people like, again, Ms. James and the work she's doing at the Divas for Social Justice. I want to ask you, Ms. James, what inspired you to start an organization like that? That's some very great work you're doing there.
Well, I grew up in Laurelton, Queens.
Okay.
And yes, and
I
attended the public school system, for elementary, middle school, high school, and I even went to CUNY.
Okay.
And I think for the most part I got a great education. But I also had the support system that my mother was a teacher.
Right.
So I
so
had, yeah, really?
Yeah,
wow.
absolutely.
See?
it's in the genes. That's what I'm looking to do as part of my next career. Actually, we're doing some things now. We're looking to do some programs in some schools, but that's my next career as a teacher. We'll talk about that later. My mom is still like, when are you gonna get your certification together? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but my mom. So I had a great support system.
Okay.
But one of the things that I noticed growing up, like even in my school, there was no after school program. Right? There wasn't funding for after school program.
That's true.
All throughout my education. So when I was able to come back to Laurelton with Divas for Social Justice and provide an after school program, it was just like it was really like a blessing. Wow. So I felt like that was something that I knew, just as my experience growing up there, that opportunity wasn't there, right?
Right.
There wasn't an enrichment program that offered technology in that capacity, and I wanted to bring that back to the community. And then when I was in graduate school, because for a little while I worked in the music industry, and then I decided to go back to school. And when I was in graduate school, I was in an MFA program that encouraged the artists in the program to create socially conscious media for underserved communities. But yet within the MFA program, there was a lack of representation of people of color or people of color teaching in the program. And a lot of times the projects that were put on display by my fellow colleagues in the class, they were very exploitive. And I found that I was constantly getting into arguments. And I had, I said to myself, does this really make sense for me to sit in this classroom and have this debate or actually do something about it? And Divas was co-founded by myself and a fellow graduate student and a very good friend of mine named Shasha Fang, an Asian woman. And we were both in the same program, and we were like, you know what? The only way that this will change is if we start teaching and educating and making technology accessible to more people so that they can tell their own story and no one else is controlling it. And that was really the drive for wanting to start and do the work.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, basically, you decided to become the solution to the problem that you saw out there and take it upon yourself to try to go into that space and make a change.
Yeah, definitely. And that's and I think that's really the work that we do with the young people that we serve is for them to really be able to see themselves as the change agents, in their communities, so that someone else can't come into your community and say, no, this is the way that it's going to go. So if you have the technology skills, right, and you pair that with critical thinking and conversations, and solution-based activities, then we set our children up to see themselves as the future leaders of their communities, and that they can't be easily just pushed out.
Right. Gentrification.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's deep.
Yeah.
again, coming from that part of Queens where you come from, I do remember when I was a little younger, and it may have been I was a little younger at a time when you were maybe, it seemed to be just a few years older than you, but nevertheless, there was a time, speaking of after-school programs, IS 59 right on Springfield Boulevard.
Okay.
I remember them having an after-school program for a while. When we were in junior high school, even though I went to 72, which was over closer to Rochdale Village on the other side.
Okay.
So I had family there. And so we went to school in 72. I had a family that also went to 59. There were after-school programs there for a little while. But unfortunately, they fell to budget cuts.
Yeah.
And I immediately saw the change in the fact that there was not that much for us to do as young black boys in that community. Coming up, you immediately saw the change that now cats were in the street and in the parks more, and we played a lot of basketball and we had a lot of fun too. But you immediately saw the change in the fact that there was a lack of resources in the community that was some place for us to go. Someplace for us to go, and I think that's important that children have some place to go.
It's true. After
school, especially with 85-90% of us having working parents that may not get home as early as we get out of school. When we get out at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they're still in the middle of their day. So I think that's very important that some of us step into the breach and try to provide those type of things where government has stepped back and does not prioritize those things anymore. So that's great. And I think that I followed the same track as you, public schools in Queens, as well as here in Brooklyn. I went to Brooklyn Tech High School right here in central Brooklyn, downtown Fort Greene. Big up to my engineers and all the folks from mine there. It was a great education. As you said, it is a public education, then on to CUNY and SUNY, myself. And it's public education, but I thought I got a good education, but there were some things looking now that I think we're missing, and it is great that folks like yourself have decided to step into the breach and provide those things. As I was looking on your website, I saw it was very interesting. Let's talk about some of the programs you have for the young ladies and for the kids there, because you have some very interesting things. I saw a virtual reality mentorship program that you launched recently.
Yes.
It's like, wow, that was looking serious. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure.
Your programs?
So last year, and I'm so glad that you brought that specific one up first.
Okay.
Last year, we got funding from a private foundation, the Pinkerton Foundation, to implement virtual reality into our program on 2 levels. We felt that, okay, if we're interested in bridging the digital divide and providing technology, especially in underserved communities, we need for the facilitators that we work with to reflect the community.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So one of the things that the Pinkerton Foundation funded was for us to train our staff, right, our after school staff, in learning about virtual reality VR. But then also for the kids that had aged out of our middle school program, provide a teen mentorship program that they would be trained in VR, right? And then they would step back into the after school program as a mentor in the middle school program and help the VR facilitator teach VR. And then in our storefront or at local libraries, actually provide a community workshop.
Wow.
In virtual reality, learning the history, learning how to interact with the 360-degree camera, with the actual VR gear, but then also raising awareness about this is something that is accessible and is possible, and really raising that awareness in the communities that we serve, especially Laurelton and Bedford-Stuyvesant.
Okay, well, accessibility and the awareness of it, the accessibility of something like that is very important, because a lot of us probably don't think that that's something that's available to us right now. A lot of our young children, the ability to participate in virtual reality and learning how to do it and then to teach others. That's very important. Tell us a little bit again about who's actually providing the training for the VR.
So we are
Okay.
Divas for Social Justice.
So I mean, you guys have been training.
We've been training. We've been trained in a partnership through NYU.
Okay.
Right. So when we came up with the idea, it was like, okay, we need to bring this into our program. I reached out to some people that I knew at NYU, and I said, I really want my staff to be trained in this, as well as myself.
Okay.
And the whole entire staff participated in a boot camp.
Really? How long is the boot camp?
It was like 2 days, and it was 8 hours, and then there was additional studying, of course, that we had to do on an ongoing basis.
That seems like some serious technology to be able to grasp it in 2 days. You got a pretty sharp team over there.
Yeah, but you know what's the wonderful thing is that the idea was that I wanted the staff to be able to see. This isn't an individual thing. This is a collective thing. Okay. If you're working on a VR piece, there are different aspects to it. There's a graphic aspect to it. There's an artistic aspect to it.
Absolutely.
There's a coding aspect to it. So everybody plays their part. So I wanted them to be able to present the technology to the children in that way to show them, nothing is accomplished on your own. Right. You do it with a team.
Absolutely.
So to model that behavior, through the technology.
Okay, that reminds me of the old African proverb that if you want to go there fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep.
Absolutely. And that's great. That's a very interesting and important type of technology to be able to introduce to these young people right now. Obviously, we were seeing concerts given by people who are no longer around with the VR stuff going on. You're seeing Tupac concerts happening because people are able to use imagery and technology to do some really great stuff. And I think that it is important that we provide the opportunities to children in underserved communities to be able to participate in things of that nature, in programs like that. It's very important. What do you expect some of the outcomes to be of your program and what you're doing there in terms of what do you expect the short and long-term outcomes to be of your efforts as for Divas for Social Justice?
I get asked that a lot. One of sometimes people look at the organization, they think, oh, it's STEM, it's all about STEM. Right. And for me, personally, the long-term outcome is that the children that we serve and the greater community just see themselves as leaders, right? Okay. Right. And that there is a platform for their voice, and that they see that their voice matters. And we are just using technology as a vehicle towards that. And plus, I see it as, it's economic justice, right? So if our children aren't given the opportunity to really learn 21st century skills, in a real way, and not just be a consumer, but be a maker, that's important. That's important. That's interesting because you have this young artist named Soulja Boy who's out there right now hawking a game system that and I don't know a whole lot about it, but just to hear you say that it's important for kids to be producers and not just consumers of this technology, producers of the games and the different things that come out of it, so that they can empower themselves financially and hopefully generations of theirs. Empowered financially with the information and the success rate, hopefully, that they will have from being producers of the technology. And so there's a controversy around this young man, Soulja Boy, and this game system that he's developed. And again, I don't know a whole lot about it, but the only thing I do know is that he's a young African-American male trying to get involved in this space because he sees where it's going, and he's made an effort. And I see folks kind of putting him down for it. But the only thing I can say is that the one thing you have to do is try. Yeah. The one thing you have to do is try. And I don't care what it is, as long as you're making an effort, as long as you're pursuing a passion of yours, then you're going to always be successful because the success is in the journey
of knowing that you try to reach your greatest potential as a person, as a human being. And if that's what Soldier Boy is trying to do, then bless him.
More power
as I
to
say,
him.
and bless you and your staff over at Divas for Social Justice. I think it's some great work y'all are doing, and I think there are going to be some very positive long and short-term outcomes from introducing young folks to that technology, and hopefully one of them will be that we'll be able to do some work together. We're looking to present technology at the One World Fest that we're going to be we're putting together, and also we also do radio. We've done a radio show on technology. We air here from We Say What They Can't once a month, and we like to present topics that are relevant. And look, what we like to say is that they're global in scope and local in impact.
Okay.
And that's what I think what you're doing is it's very much global in scope and local in impact. And I know that you have to go into another situation here, so we're going to take a pause for the cause and let you go to your next meeting. But again, I want to say thank you very much, Miss Clarissa James, Divas for Social Justice, operating in Lawton, Queens, and right here in beautiful Central Brooklyn, New York. And thank you very much for having you. And tell the people where they can reach you and how they can find you in your organization.
Oh, sure.
Before we let you go.
So you can check us out at www.divasforsocialjustice.org. And we have an office at 1604 Fulton Street. So we are just so grateful for this opportunity. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. James. We're going to take a pause for the clause, and we'll be right back in 2 and 2. Peace. Good afternoon, and welcome back once again to Radio 1 World Fest Global. Thank you for your patience. We had to take a quick pause for the cause. We're here to finish up today's show, Sunday, January 27th. Good. January 27th. Here from We Say We
It's
Can't.
January.
It's January, man. Give me a break. It's cold outside.
Yes.
Thanks for joining the broadcast. We're back with two great guests on our show, where we're talking about social responsibility. We're asking folks, what is your social responsibility? Do you have any? Does your social responsibility stop at your front door? Is your main concern just doing what you have to do for you and your family? And that's totally understandable because times are hard, and that's where a lot of folks' soul energy needs to be, in their home, taking care of their family, making sure that everything is there and that everything is okay there, and that they're sending good people out into the world where the rest of us are, and trying to live relatively good, productive lives. I want to welcome to the show our two guests that we have here, Miss Linda Bonanno.
Liddy.
Here we go again with my Facebook. Miss Liddy Bonanno of Got Checked Records, and Mr. Rob James, I'm sorry. Mr. Rob James, he is an election reform advocate. Welcome to the show. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Let's jump right in here. Ms. Bonanno.
Yes.
Liddy, tell us about yourself and your organization and what it is you're doing there at Got Checked Records, and what brings you here to talk to us today.
So I'm going to make it real brief. Got Checked Records is and it's an extension of the main brand and campaign, which is Got Checked. Got Checked was born out of the necessity of really seeking, changes when it comes to breast health. But again, at the end of the day, you're asking me probably why am I here today? Because I honestly think that before we even seek women's rights, we really ought to seek human rights. So Got Checked Records is the record label, which is a hybrid between a social movement and a record label. And what we do is we really give opportunities to young artists to express themselves, to create music with a message that we utilize in our campaign. And so really at the end of the day, what are we without social justice?
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, no.
First, we'll tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to this point. Tell us about your background and what inspired you to start a record company, first and foremost, and then a record company where you're actually using it to educate people and spread a positive message.
Well, I was born in Italy. I was born in public housing. I lost my mother to breast cancer. I came here just like many people with a bag and a dream. And, I'm still a firm believer that New York State precisely is the place where everything happens in the world.
Okay.
I still believe it's the most progressive, really, platform.
Okay.
And so, I'm driven to really leave my mother legacy, and my mother legacy was one of justice. And that's really the bottom line. So at the end of the day, there's nowhere I don't go.
Right.
I walk myself into everywhere and anywhere.
Right.
And my campaign is really, the campaign motto is anyone, anytime, anywhere. So Got Checked was born really out of the necessity to create changes. I'm not one to walk around the block, and I'm not wanting to, engage in a fruitless campaign. I'm somebody that is goal-oriented, and I also have very little patience. So,
Okay, I hear that.
I set goals, and, I go after them. So Got Checked was really, it's a call to action. Got checked, demands an answer, yes or no.
Okay.
So what happened we Got Checked is really Got Checked is a trifold campaign right now. We have three main goals that are necessary, and that's also falls into social responsibility. Knowing that 1 in 227 women in the United States of America are being diagnosed with breast cancer between age 30 and 40, what are we doing about it? While they are really researching and trying to find a cure, which is not coming next week, what are we doing about it?
Right.
So what we are doing is we're demanding changes. First and foremost is a breast health mandate that I have prompted on many, many occasions Governor Cuomo to pass, to sign an executive order. He can do that. We can bypass all the nonsense. We need a breast health mandate for New York State schools now. Period. End of story. End of sentence. We did it with AIDS. We did it with many other.
How early? You think
Early.
the mandate
I'm
should
going
go?
as early with my Listen to Liddy book. I'm going as early as elementary school.
Okay.
But listen, we can start with high schools. I'm happy with that. Why? Because we need to really
From an
build
awareness standpoint, just making
education.
testing
We're
and
past awareness. I'm aware of a
Okay.
lot of things, but if I'm not educated and I don't act on it, we got nothing.
Absolutely.
So absolutely education within the, the school, curriculum. Yes. So they did it with AIDS. It contained the disease. It decreased the stigma and the fear and so forth, because it's always fear-based, and fear comes out of not being educated.
Okay.
So breast health mandate for our millennials. Shannon's Law, which is a law to lower mammogram age to 35, spearheaded by a beautiful Haitian queen named Kimberly Jean-Pierre, Assemblywoman Kimberly Jean-Pierre. Passed unanimously in Assembly 2 years in a row. We're going our third year now. I'm going really armed with,
Right.
real real weapons,
Very
if you may say.
impactful. Okay.
And
okay.
so,
Look at that.
Shannon Law, lower mammogram age to 35, necessary for our Gen Y generation and such, because at the end of the day, it's not an older woman in a foreign country, it's young women at home.
Right here.
And number 3, National Got Checked Day. We have a National Burger Day, Chihuahua Day, Umbrella Day,
We got a lot
bullshit
of
day,
days.
excuse my
We got
language.
a lot of days out here.
So,
And
National
folks
Got
are
Checked
recognizing
Day, yes.
A lot of days.
So just recently officiated by Governor Cuomo, July 6th is official, Got Checked Day in New York State. So we're going nationally next. By next year, I expect all these things to happen.
July 6th.
July 6th.
Got checked
We are staying away from October, and we are
Okay.
staying away from prepackaged campaigns. I am somebody that if you're going left and it's not bearing results, I'm going right.
Okay.
And I'm bringing you results. So,
Okay.
so this is now the political campaign, and it's the women campaign, if you may, but still not, because we include males. 1 in 1,000 men in America is diagnosed with breast cancer.
Right.
And in my experience, of course, and this is why we're here today, opportunity, and the nice lady that I actually spoke prior to me,
Right.
opportunities are not equally distributed.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we know that already. It's not a
Right.
secret. And it's not a matter of really being politically correct. It's a matter of being emotionally correct. Forget that's politically correct. I mean, people
You gotta
need
get
fair
correct on
health
a
care
lot of different
everywhere.
levels.
Yes.
Right. And they all have to be addressed. And so on that note, I want to come over here to you, Mr. Venable, and let us talk to you a little bit about because when we talk social responsibility, it can take many forms. And you've decided to attack it from an election reform format. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and what brings you here today, and what brought you to this point?
Well, I'm, I guess, a political enthusiast.
Okay.
Since I first registered to vote, I registered for the Green Party years ago. And, they don't really have a chance because it's dominated by the two parties based on the current voting system.
Okay.
So I looked around at alternative voting systems like ranked choice voting and approval voting, and I've decided, approval voting is a better way to go. Okay. It's easier and cheaper to implement, and it doesn't hurt your party.
Okay. Tell us what approval voting is. What is that for our listeners who are unaware of that particular term as it relates to elections?
In approval voting, you can go to the poll and vote for as many people on the ballot as you would like to vote. Let's say there's three people on the ballot, you can vote for two. So you can vote for your heart, and you can vote for what you think would be, It eliminates wasted vote syndrome. People will vote for one of the two dominant parties out of fear of causing the greater evil, what they perceive to be the greater evil, to win if they vote for their choice.
Okay. So approval voting, is that something that anyone is talking about on the elected level? Who are you talking to about trying to get that brought to bear, if anyone? I know that
well, right now, you.
Me, right? We and Rob, be clear, Rob is a buddy of mine, and we talk about these kind of things all the time. He has some very great ideas as it relates to voting and different systems that are available, different parties that are out there that I don't think a lot of people are aware of. We know that we're dominated by the two-party system, Democrats and Republicans, and those are private corporations that are actually, dominated by people who have long roots in the voting system and the way it's weighted in favor of different folks. And we know a lot about gerrymandering and things of that nature, the way they gerrymander districts and draw lines for districts where they know that the majority of the voters are for any particular party, and that's going to swing votes and thus legislation in the direction of the Republican or Democratic Party. And Liddy, you talked a lot about that. We were saying how you're talking to Governor Cuomo and you've been in contact
I deal
with
with
him
a lot of
about different
politics.
things, a lot of politics. So, and Rob here is talking about election reform, where he sees that there are some flaws in that. So, Rob, tell us how the things that you're working on, or the things that you're interested in, how will that open up the electorate base? How will that open the voting base up to different people if they go with some of the things that you're interested in?
What do you mean, open it up to people?
Like there are a lot of people that are being disenfranchised from voting because of the way the districts are drawn, or because of the way that voting is being handled right now. They're with the Democrats having taken over the state legislature here in the state of New York. We know that there's certain legislation now that they're looking to institute as it relates to voting, because New York State is one of the places where the least number of people actually get to vote. It's one of the states in the country where the least number of people actually get to vote. So how will the ideas that you have in terms of election reform, how will that open that up a little bit more and allow more people to get involved in the process?
With the approval voting, it'll allow independents or third party to who aren't tied to the party machine. Okay. Like if you get somebody who makes his promises with the Democrat or the Republican, he gets elected, but at the end of the day, he falls in line with his party.
Right.
You get somebody who's not tied to that, they can actually work for the people.
Okay. So then they're less likely to be swayed by big money or just weighted down by voting along party lines with different types of legislation, because they were actually voting by the will of the people as opposed to just the two dominant parties.
Correct. And getting money out of politics, ending Citizens United is another thing.
Citizens United, that's a travesty if there ever was one.
Boy.
Basically considers corporations people and dollars
that's a travesty.
people, freedom of speech.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So I came here, freedom of speech.
All right. So speaking of freedom of speech, Liddy, you're involved in music with the record label. Tell us about that. What type of music you guys putting out? Tell us about some of your artists. Let's talk about some of your people. You gotta blow
So
them up.
Liddy's known everywhere in the boroughs because
Okay.
I am, the culture's biggest fan.
Okay.
So
Nice.
I
Nice.
feel like, listen, at the end of the day, Liddy's honest and very forward. And I feel like we can dip in when it's convenient, us as white people. So I'm somebody that if something needs to be said, I say it. So I always think as me having 2 young children, I can make it convenient. And that's social responsibility too.
Right.
I can make it convenient to where, one day we love black people because we're watching LeBron James, and then, the next day it's something else.
Right.
So you either love the people and the culture,
Right.
and we're all one country, or we're not.
Right.
It's one or the other. So
One world. That's what
it's-
we're talking about right here.
Exactly. So
Right.
for me, it's very important. This is very important because, again, this is my mother's legacy. My mother was this person.
Right.
So
Okay.
I grew up with
speaks-
that. My
right.
mother always said, "There's a world out there. It's not just about the 3 of us here."
Right, right. That's important. I
that's
teach my
the
kids to be
beginning.
global citizens, travel, get to learn as many people,
That
know
is
as
the
much
beginning.
as you can about folks, and that will help you break down so many barriers.
Beginning of social responsibility is
Right.
it's Saturday and Sunday, and if something needs to be done in Brooklyn, you go to Brooklyn, and it's not just about eating and hanging out and just the family nucleus.
Right.
It's up to the mother and the father to really make children realize you're responsible for the rest of the world.
That's important. That's important. Some people
They don't.
they think differently.
They think
But-
differently.
But if we don't do that, then we create an even more difficult situation for the kids when we allow them to have such narrow visions.
Exactly.
so-
and this is what Got Check Records really was
Okay.
meant to be, was sort of out of my nature. And, like I said, my dream, my nature. You want to put this on?
No, you don't need.
No?
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right.
Did you
Should
take
I?
one before? Okay.
I
That's-
did,
that's
and then
on
they
me.
were kind of loose. That's
oh,
why.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Okay,
They were a little
we're
loose.
Good? We're good.
Liddy-
I just noticed. I was like, oh, good.
Liddy's like a chihuahua. I got a small head with a big brain.
All right.
So-
Go ahead.
So Got
Yeah.
Check Records was really just my dream of doing my part. My part as I can't not stress how many people and how many artists and how many people I know even on Instagram. They're so talented. The amount
Absolutely.
of poets.
Absolutely.
I mean, the amount of young poets and young artists, they do
Absolutely.
not get a chance. And that's what really that was. It was just giving a chance. And we want to really be that support system. We don't want to be, listen, to me, honestly, labels are dying. It's a dying breed. In 10 years, it's going to be everything's going to be run by apps as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
But
Yeah, well, they've been dying for a while. Tell us about them. That gentleman right there who wrote some of the hottest records in hip hop history. Wrote for Sean Puffy Combs, was on Bad Boy Records. Had a group there.
I just
Platinum.
want to do my
This
part
guy
to
here.
respect, to show
We
respect.
saw it die.
And do what I can, if I have any possibility. So, we have a lot of young people that are eager. And actually, the way I arrived here is because I was in another radio show at your college, bringing one of our artists, one of our songs. They're called Justice for All.
Okay.
From Kimberly Seabrook, this young Bronx artist.
Okay.
But again, to me, is just, I'm just a fan.
Okay.
And so, as a fan, I just want to be part of it. And
Justice
that's
for
all.
All. Yeah,
Respectfully,
I heard
of course.
that track by Kimberly
Yes.
Seabrook.
Yes,
Very deep.
yes,
very deep. It
yes.
was
She's a
moving, it
poet,
was hot.
mentor. Yes,
Yeah,
spoken
nice.
words.
Right, absolutely.
So
I like
she
that.
wrote this beautiful song. By the way, it was featured in New York Fashion Week,
Okay.
and really just respectfully, be part of a culture that I admire. So really, that simple.
Respect to that.
Yeah.
Respect to that.
So like I said, I don't know what
You're
the hell
putting
I'm
something
doing.
in as opposed to taking
You know?
something out, right?
Yes, exactly. And
That's
that's
peace.
really what's about. And like I said, listen, I'm always in the boroughs. I love it. I spent many, many years in Harlem. I actually lived in Harlem on 116th.
Me too. 142nd and Conway.
Oh my
It was-
God,
it was
best
serious. That was
freaking
back
years. Back in the 2000s,
yeah,
huh?
Yeah, in the days.
Huh?
It was serious.
When it was
I
actually
going to
still
City
Harlem.
College. I was in City College for a while, right? Oh man, some of the blocks up there. It was deep, but I was in City College studying architecture, and I happened to get an apartment on 142nd and Convent, right down the block from City, and
Right?
it was
The
like about a
music,
year and a half.
I
while
still
was up there.
love to go there
I
and
loved
shop,
it.
and I still
loved
go
it.
by the Paul over there, hang out with my people.
Yeah,
I love
Harlem.
it.
We call that Mecca right there.
Yeah.
That's Mecca.
You know?
I want to come to you, Rob. I want to come back to you right quick because what I want to talk to you about is something we talk about all the time. Like there are a number of other parties out there in political parties, and you seem to know a lot more about it than almost anybody I know. I want you to tell us a little bit about some of the parties that you've researched that you think may be able to make a difference out there if folks just know about them, because I didn't know about a lot of these parties and the platforms that they espouse, and you seem to know a little bit about that. Can you tell us something about some of the parties that you think may be of interest to people in terms of what they're trying to do to expand the voter base?
You can find a good list of political parties on it's politics1.com, the number one
Okay.
/parties, and it gives a healthy list of them and a pretty good summary of their platforms. It doesn't spell out the whole thing.
Okay.
And then
Talk about the Modern Whigs. Tell me a little bit about the Modern Whigs.
the Modern Whigs, I like their platform. It's a centrist platform. It's pretty reasonable. They support approval voting as well.
Okay.
And they just merged with the Alliance Party, so I haven't had a chance to look at the new platform. The Alliance Party is a bunch of different moderate and centrist parties that came together to try to get some momentum in the election process.
Well, what initially sparked your interest in election reform and getting involved in these folks?
From reading their platforms, and I saw election reform was one of their issues, and I looked into it, and it just intrigued me.
Okay.
And I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. That's why I wanted to talk about it, to
Right.
get it in people's
Right.
minds.
Okay. So right now we have the one of the biggest race here in New York City. Let's talk about that. Is public advocate. That's the next one because obviously Letitia James, who is our recent public advocate, became the Attorney General of the state of New York. Big ups to Letitia James, first black woman in that prestigious position here in the state of New York. And I hope that she's going to be fair and just in her reign as the Attorney General of the state of New York. But since she vacated the public advocacy space here, which is a very important position because it's seen as being a natural lead into the running for the mayor. Are any of the parties that you know about outside of Democratic and Republican involved in the public advocate race at all?
I'm not sure if they're fielding any candidates, at least the Modern Whigs.
Okay.
Possibly the Green Party, but I haven't looked into that.
So if the Green Party is not fielding a candidate, what do they?
As a matter of fact, now that I think about it, I think they were. I just can't think of who it was.
Okay. So, but if they're not fielding a candidate themselves, they would just endorse someone. And are they on the ballot here?
No, those parties field it when they do field a candidate. It's their own. They don't. I haven't seen them
cross party
co-endorse.
lines
Yeah.
and endorse anyone else.
Yeah, and I think that's coming to an end in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I heard that they're going to put a stop to that. So, the Working Families Party, for example, would be, if that's true, they'd be fielding their own candidates in the future. Reform Party as well.
Okay.
And the other one's the Independence Party of New York.
Okay. Okay.
And, they're conservative, and I think the Independence is more centrist.
So what do you think? What is the main thing? One of the main things about the election system here in New York City that needs to be changed? What would you advocate for change?
The very first thing before you move on to any other issues, it's how you vote.
Okay.
Voting, approval voting.
Okay.
You go to the poll, you approve or disapprove of each of the candidates that are running for a particular office.
Okay.
And then, whoever gets the most votes would win. If nobody gets a majority of the vote, then the top two vote getters would have a runoff,
Right.
so that somebody would have a majority instead of a plurality
Right.
of the vote.
The plurality thing, right? Where right now, I think it's like if you get 41%, if they got like 3 or 4, more than 2 candidates running, and if you get like 41% or something like that of the vote, then you win. Even though that's not considered a majority out of 100%, 40% is not a majority. But if you get that many, I think that's what they.
Yeah, if you had somebody
That's how
with
they can declare a
25,
winner.
35, and 40%, he would win. That's,
Right.
That's how it
So
works.
approval voting would take that away and change it to something different.
Yeah, you need a majority to win.
Okay, a real majority.
Yeah,
Okay.
51 or better.
All right. Well, the important thing is that there are other political parties out there. There are other ways of doing it. I know that right now the legislature is considering a certain number of reforms like same-day registration and being able to vote in advance. Like here in New York, if we can't mail in your vote early or send in your vote early, everything has to be trying to run to the poll on election day, and that's not always convenient for everyone. So I think that with the Democrats taking control of the legislature, there are some reforms that they're putting in that I think are going to help open it up a little bit and let people get involved in the process a little bit more and see if maybe we can.
It's all about making people's lives easier.
Absolutely, absolutely. So,
Making it a
Linda, what?
national holiday.
Tell us what's the next step for you guys over at Got Check Records? What are you looking for some outcomes going into this year?
Well,
What are
right
you trying
now
to
we're
do?
just looking into producing more music, really developing the whole concept and seeking out people that can help us develop further. The main campaign is up and running. We're doing fantastic. At the end of the day, listen, everything runs on energy and enthusiasm. There's nothing else. Purpose, passion, energy, and enthusiasm, and I have plenty of that. I'm
Okay.
pushing 50,
I hear
but
that.
I just
hear that.
starting.
Right. I hear that.
So just really developing the concept. Really, for me, it's my journey into being educated in what really goes on in this country and really learning. Listen, about 3 months ago, on a very snowy day, I was invited to speak at a rally on behalf of the First Step Act regarding how women are shackled in prison while they're giving birth. Of course,
yeah. I
you
heard
call
about
Liddy. Liddy's there. That's
I heard
something
something
that
about
touched.
that.
Yes,
That's crazy.
So that's something that my mother was
I
beaming
read
in
about
heaven.
that a couple months ago. That
Yes.
They keep women shackled as
Can
they're
you
incarcerated
imagine?
and they're
Can you
giving
even
birth.
imagine
they keep
that?
them shackled
Like
during the
what?
birthing process. That is so nuts.
2020 over here,
For
19.
real, yeah, I heard it. Yeah,
So
that's
when I
disgusting.
heard that, I was like, of course, I'm there.
Right.
It was that big storm. I mean, it took us 6 hours to come back home to Long Island, from New York City to Long
Wow.
Island, 6 hours.
Wow.
But again, was probably the best event of last year for me.
Right.
Why? Because first of all, just being made part of something like that, to me,
Absolutely.
it's huge. Just to even be given a voice, with
Absolutely.
the thick accent over here, but just to be even a part of it,
Right.
for me, it's a dream. Listen, can I tell you something?
Sure.
I come from Europe. I grew up in Italy, in a little town called Trieste.
Mm.
We religiously watch you guys, all of you,
Okay.
from on TV,
Wow.
and we worship this country.
Really
We do, like a lot of people out there.
interesting.
And so for me to be made part of anything that is regarding justice and fairness and anything that my mother was interested in, it's a gift.
Right.
I was like, are you kidding me? I'm
Right.
there. I don't care if I got to sleep there in the
Beautiful.
snow.
That's beautiful that
So-
you care that much.
So again,
to
just,
want to do that.
anything, that's what the plan is.
Okay.
Being involved with this, making music, allowing others to participate, being part of what I love.
Okay, so let's see. And we're wrapping up here. We got
Yes.
we're counting down the last 3 minutes of the show. Tell us a little bit about this family kit that you brought with you.
So the family kit is my idea of prevention, because at the end of the day, everything on earth is about prevention. We are early prevention. We're not aftercare. We believe that
Right.
early detection saves lives.
Okay.
It saved mine. So
Okay.
with that said, the family kit is for all ages. There's absolutely no reason why a elementary school child shouldn't be taught that sharing family history is a life-saving tip. So according to age group, we have life-saving tips that go from, of course, at 5 years old, you're not performing a mammogram or you're not performing a self-breast exam. But at 5 years old, you definitely can learn about, prevention tools as learning family history, fitness, nutrition, spiritual health, and so forth. At 15, you can learn definitely how to be, get acquainted with your breast tissue. And of course, as an adult, being able to learn about your screening tools, such as mammogram, MRI, and so forth. So this is really what Got Checked is. Got Checked is building a net of education from childhood to adulthood. Wow. Because at the end of the day, you know who the worst offenders are? It's women my age.
Really?
Because there's no education. Yes, they don't. We don't go. I don't care. Listen, I don't care if Cuomo makes it available as he has for until midnight. Most women don't go because it's fear-based, and fear-based is usually because if there's an ignorance component, and so we don't go. So again, build a net, make available all the resources, and that's what the family kit. Now you're a father, because I'm leaving you this.
Okay.
If you have children, wife, aunt, whoever it is in your family, you go home and you have these pledges with basic tips, and you can, really learn the basics. This is enough at 5. Okay. But you know what? It's a subliminal message to the next level.
Right.
Like brush your teeth, cavities, brush your teeth. When do you start? At 45? No. Same thing.
Absolutely.
So
tell
that's
people
what that is.
That's great. Tell people where they can find you. Give us
well,
your
in
social
Brooklyn.
media information. It's a big place. It's a big place.
In the Bronx,
Give
in
us your
Harlem,
phone number
116.
or an email if you want anybody to look you up on social media.
You can find me at Got Checked, got_checked, Got Checked Records. Listen to Linda Bonanno. I'm pretty easy to find.
Okay.
You can harass me, call me. I put my face to this campaign because as not as I am, I still want to be held responsible. So if you have any questions, and if you see what I do it with pride. I don't associate myself with anybody that I don't believe in, because at the end of the day, it comes back to me. You can email me. You can go on Instagram right now, call me, come to my house, whatever you need, I'm there.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For being with us today.
Thank you.
Liddy.
Thank you for the
and
opportunity.
sharing everything with us, all the great work you're doing over at God Check Records. We really appreciate you being here. We appreciate you very much. Rob, tell the people where they can find you, or where you're on Facebook or Instagram, buddy. Where can they come a little bit more to learn anything more about the election reform in QB?
No, I'm not on social media.
Okay. So this is Mr. Rob James who joined us today. Thank you to Mr. Rob James, and thank you again to Miss Liddy Bonanno and the folks in the team over at God Check Records. Thank you to our listening audience, as well as our production partners here at WeSayWhatTheyCan't.com. Join us again the last Sunday of every month. Today, social responsibility. Something else next month. You'll hear about it. And we appreciate y'all plugging in, man. This is real. We try to bring real folks talking about real things that can be impactful to you, again, on a global scope, local in impact. Radio 1 World Fest, Camilo Ellis signing off. Thanks for joining us, y'all. Peace.